good morning, listeners of South Coast Radio. I hope that I find you well on this Thursday morning, 15th of May. Can you believe it? We are certainly heading towards the middle of the year, and after that, downhill all the way to the end of the year. But let us not worry about that. What I want to talk about this morning, which has come across my desk quite a bit the last 2-3 weeks, is friendship. Now, friendship is something we all need. As we've discussed in the past, we are social creatures, and therefore we need a social circle, a clan, a group of friends, a team, a gang, whatever you want to call your mates, but we need friends. And those friendships could be also extended to family, because in a sense we have a friendship with a family member. We may be blood related, but as we all know, there are certain family members we just do not get on with and avoid, and then there are those that we get on well with and by definition have a friendship with. Now, what has come across my desk is the fact that people feel used in friendships. They feel they don't get as much as they give. They feel neglected. And they don't always know how to handle it. So I thought it would be useful for all of us to look at what makes a friendship mutually satisfying. And that's the key word, is mutually. If I do not feel satisfied, if my needs and desires are not met in a friendship, then it really isn't a friendship, isn't it? A friendship is a two-way street. You give and you get. Sometimes you give more, other times you get more. Just like a marriage, sometimes it's not always 50-50. If my husband is having a bad day, or let's say he's ill, I have to pick up the slack. I have to do the extra chores around the home and care for him, and vice versa. So then I perhaps go 80% of the way, and knowing that when I'm in that position, he will do the same for me. I had an acquaintance once whose husband told her that if you get sick, I'm not going to look after you, forget it. I'll put you in a home. And that statement was so telling, in as much as he was doing all the receiving and very little giving, and made it quite clear that his intention was not to give but only to receive what benefits he could from that relationship. So a good friendship is built on a few tenets, a few supports, a few pillars. And one is shared experiences. We have to have something in common. Whether it's at a school or university, or going through a heartbreak together, or going through something exciting together, a shared experience that creates a bond and creates that understanding of each other. Mutual respect. Mutual respect is something that is fundamental in any relationship, a friendship, a marriage, a professional relationship. We need to respect each other. And what does that mean? What does it mean to respect someone? It means you speak to them nicely. There is no derogatory statements. There is no judgment. That does not mean you can't voice an opinion in a productive way, but there is no breaking down. There is no judgment as in I am better than you, or using poor language, bad language towards that person, or character assassination. That all points to mutual respect. Of course, open communication, no hidden agenda, no reading between the lines, no veiled threats. We have spoken about communication before. So open, honest communication. I was explaining to someone the other day that if you are writing a document and there is some sensitive stuff in there, then you, at the top of the document, you put without prejudice. That is a legal term, really, that says that this is an open discussion, but nothing in that discussion can be used against you in legal proceedings or in any other punishing or punitive way. It means the intention is for it to be an open discussion. And friends need to be able to have that. I don't know if I've shared that with you, but many, many years ago, when my son was a baby, I met a Swiss girl at prenatal classes. And of course, we both had our babies and became good friends. And the one day she said to me, Lee, do you think I'm fat? And I said to her, you know what? Yes, you are. You could do with losing some weight. And in that moment that I said that, I knew it was either going to strengthen or ruin the relationship, but it was honest. She asked my opinion. And if I keep telling her what I think she wants to hear, it's not honest, open communication. And the mere fact that she asked the question means she already knew that she needed to lose some weight, but needed someone from outside of herself to just give her that push. And it was some months later that she said to me, Lee, you know, that is the nicest thing anybody has ever done for me, because I knew I had to lose weight, but I needed, as we all of us sometimes do, someone to say to you, come on, pull yourself together and exercise more, eat less, smoke less, whatever it is. And then you think, okay, right, this is real now. It's not just something. Because let's be honest, our partners, husbands, are often a little bit weary of telling you that you need to lose weight or whatever, because they know it could well end up in a huge argument and recrimination, and which it should not. It should be an open discussion, an open communication. But what I'm saying is she said it's the nicest thing that anybody had ever done for her, because it was honest. It was not said with malice or with the intention to hurt. It was just an honest answer to a question she asked. And as I say, the mere fact that she asked the question to me was indicative that she actually knew the answer already, but just needed some confirmation and a little bit of a push. Caring for each other's well-being. And that is emotional and physical. If you see your friend is going through a tough time, support, care. That doesn't mean you agree with everything he or she says and you tell them what they want to hear and you just make all the right cooing noises. But it does mean that sometimes you say to them, you know what, I understand why you said or did this, but have you thought about how you could have handled it differently? And how we can now together work out a way for the situation to be remedied. And that way you are supporting and caring for your friend's well-being. But you are not saying, well, you are right. Meanwhile, you know that perhaps certain lines were overstepped. Certain things were said or done that should never have been said or done. And you are just saying, well, you're fine, you did okay, it's not your problem, it's not your fault, you know, you're squeaky clean. That's not open communication. And that is not genuine care. Care is when, you know, listeners, I'll tell you a funny story. Many years ago, my son was maybe first year university, I can't remember. But I was wearing something and I really can't remember what it was. And he looked at me and he said, Mom, you know that look you've got going there? I said, yes. He said, it's not working for you. And it was lovely and it was honest and it was open and it was a go and look in the mirror again, Lee, and perhaps we need to change the outfit because the look was not working for me. So that kind of open communication that is not said with any intention to hurt or to harm. It is just honest opinion that said, you know what, I want you to look your best. And that is not the way you are going to look your best. So caring for each other is the emotional support and caring, the physical support and caring, and honest opinions, but expressed in a way that's not judgmental, that's not hurtful, and where you choose your words in such a way that you know it can be received in the way it's intended. And if you know your friend, you will know how to couch those comments. Encouraging each other's growth. So when someone is growing, when they want to do something, whether it's working towards a promotion, an achievement, learning to play the piano, getting another qualification, encourage them. If they're going through a tough time, that is often when we grow the most. As I said, without challenges and without pain, we won't grow. We will just stay in the same old. And challenges come across our paths, and we can choose to stay where we are or to grow through the experience. And someone who encourages and supports you through that growth is worth their weight in gold. And then obviously honesty and loyalty. And that really encompasses everything I've said before. To be honest, but make sure it is not hurtful. Choose your words, choose your tone, choose the moment. There are some moments when your friend or your partner is really in a bad space, and that is probably not the time to now add another criticism or what would be perceived as a criticism. And then loyalty, be loyal to your friends. And loyalty means we don't skinner about them. We don't listen to skinner about them. You remove yourself from that, because that is a form of disloyalty, whether it is to your partner, to a friend, to a family member who you get on well with. If somebody else says, Lisa is really very unpleasant and has a very short fuse, you should not participate in that conversation. You could rather at the right moment broach it with Lisa and say, Lisa, don't you think that you ought to be a little bit more emotionally intelligent and not react so quickly, because it really doesn't take the situation forward, and generally you are worse off afterwards than what you were before. So that loyalty and honesty is also imperative in a mutually satisfying relationship. It builds trust, it builds respect when we adhere to those principles. And as an open communication means open, honest, you share your thoughts, you share your feelings, and you know you will not be judged. You know you will get honest feedback that is not motivated or intended to hurt or to break you down or to make you feel less than. I can tell my best friend all my thoughts and feelings, and I know she will listen and she will give me her opinion, and it will not be motivated or fueled by anything else than our love for each other and our friendship that is valued, and that she really wants to give me her honest opinion. Support and care we've talked about. Loyalty, being loyal to your friend is important, and that means being loyal and true to yourself. I think it's Shakespeare that said, a man who is true to himself cannot help but be true to everyone else. It follows like the night follows the day, that you are true to everyone else if you are true to yourself. If you don't pretend to be something you are not, if you don't say things that you don't mean, if you don't display characteristics that aren't innate to you, then you are being true to yourself. And in that way, you are being true to everyone around you, to your friends. So to thine own self be true. And then it follows like the night the day, that thou cannot be false to any other man. I think that's the Shakespeare quote. Words to that or jolly close. Forgive me if I got that wrong. Equality and reciprocity. You do not see yourself as less or more than your friend. Okay? Equality is important. My opinion is not more important than yours. My ideas are not necessarily correct and yours are wrong. That does not mean there's not space for discussion, but it does mean that we are equal in this relationship. I don't always get my way. You don't always get your way. We can discuss and we can compromise. And with that comes the reciprocity, the giving and receiving that's in balance, the giving and receiving of time, of energy, of support. We are not necessarily talking here about, is the birthday gift I gave you more expensive than the birthday gift you gave me? That is a whole different thing. We give what we feel we want to give from our heart. And if it's a genuine friendship, that would be a gift, irrespective of the price, that I am excited to give you. But it's the reciprocity of time. If I'm always there for Susie, but whenever I phone Susie, she just somehow is too busy or too caught up in something else to talk to me or to spend time with me or to come over or to meet for coffee, then it becomes kind of obvious then that this is a one-way street. So there has to be reciprocity in time and energy and support. Encouragement and celebration. If your friend achieved something, you must be able to honestly and sincerely celebrate with them and be as happy for them as they are for themselves, if not more so. Anything else is envy. Anything else is less than a satisfying and mutually equal relationship. So encourage your friend, push them to be their best, and celebrate with their achievements with them. Then the last one I want to just touch on is forgiveness and understanding. We all make mistakes. We all have bad days when we say things we don't mean or do things we really did not mean to do. And if there is a good open understanding between you and your friend, that will be understood and it will be forgiven. Again, the same friend I'm talking about, the Swiss girl, I came to visit her, and I obviously for some reason was not in a good place. Maybe my little boy had been crying all night and I was exhausted, etc. And a German shepherd came up to me, who was a lovely, lovely boy, and jumped on me, and I was really not impressed and sort of gave him a smack on his snout, which I would never really do, because all the dog was doing was saying, I am so happy to see you. It's amazing. Thank you for visiting. And she looked at me and she said, come in, the kettle's on, let's have some coffee. And that to me was the most beautiful expression of understanding, of no judgment, of not saying, don't you slap my dog because you're in a bad mood. It was just the understanding, and I could sit down with a cup of coffee and just relax and just know I'm safe. I'm safe with this person who is not judging me. And I could then say, I'm sorry, I've just had, and so I really can't remember that far back now. My son is 39 years old. I really can't remember much. Let's assume that I had a bad night with baby teething and I was just unraveling. And she totally understood, forgave, and it was never mentioned. So listeners, look at what I've shared with you and measure your friendships. And just like any rose bush that has to be pruned actually twice a year, severe prune in June and then a little light prune in January. But setting that technicality aside, just like any good rose bush that has to be pruned and has to be shaped for it to be strong and beautiful and produce the best blossoms, our relationships sometimes have to be pruned. And that means, yes, sometimes cutting people right out of your life. But it also means having to sit down perhaps with someone and have that honest, open conversation and being able to say, you know what, you often snub me. I often get the feeling that you don't really want to spend time with me because when I phone, you invariably have an excuse. And here comes Mango shaking her head. You invariably have an excuse or cut the call short because you're so busy. And that makes me feel that I am not important, that you haven't got time for me, that you really don't want to spend time. So paint that picture for your friend. Don't just make vague statements like, you never have time for me. That leaves the other person saying, like, what do you mean I never have time for you? I spoke to you 2 days ago. You have to give it some flesh on the bone and say, you know what, I needed to speak to you about something. You didn't have the time, which I understand because, as we've discussed before, not all the time is the right time. But you never came back to me. You never said, look, I can't chat now, but I will get back to you as soon as I have the space and the opportunity to do so. So if you can have that open conversation, it can clear up a lot of things. Maybe she will say, well, I have kind of gotten the impression that you are somewhere else in your head and that we are missing a beat and maybe just, not quite on the same path anymore. And it could be the wonderful opportunity for better understanding, mutual respect, mutual consideration, engaging in open, honest conversation that builds trust and builds understanding. So I hope that helped you to look at your friendship, to evaluate them, because listeners, not everybody deserves a front row seat in your play, and your life is your play, and you can script it any way you want. But in that scripting, remember to always be considerate and respectful to others, because if you're not, it reflects on you, not on them. You may hurt them, and they, I'm sure, will get over it and move on with their lives. But their everlasting memory of you will be that person that hurt them, that person that was unreasonable, that person that was disrespectful and inconsiderate. So having those conversations, open, honest, with no agenda other than to build relationships, are so worthwhile, and you'll be surprised how most people welcome them and are open to them. And if you need help in those conversations that can be difficult to broach and to open, you are very welcome to contact me. But meanwhile, please send in your requests. We are very interested in what you are interested in and what you are confused, perplexed, and otherwise bewildered by. And I wish you a wonderful Thursday and a wonderful weekend ahead.
The radio station you can't live without. This is your radio.
This is South Coast Radio.